Welcome back to What's the Dill? I'm your host, Pete Dill, named a podcast after myself. You can really do anything in the podcast world. You can start your own podcast. You can name it after yourself. No one is stopping you. So if you're listening out there, you're saying, I want to start a podcast and name it after myself, look to me as an example for doing that. I started a podcast and named it part of the name after myself. I don't know if that fills you with hope, joy, or terror, horror. Speaking of terror and horror, this couple days ago was Halloween, and I went to Party City this past weekend to try to get some costumes for me and the fam. You want to talk about horror? You want to talk about terror? I mean, everyone trying to get last-minute decorations, last-minute costumes in a Party City here in Austin on a Saturday afternoon. I mean, not the greatest timing by the Dill fam, not the greatest foresight, but we needed some costumes, and I mean, you want to talk about terror? You want to talk about horror? Oh my, that was insanity. People just grabbing pink streamers, red streamers. Nothing, doesn't seem like they have a costume that it's going with, and doesn't seem like they have any direct decorations. They were just grabbing the last of what they could get. We had a stroller in there, bad choice. Stroller in Party City, 2 days before Halloween, and middle of the mall, bad choice. I mean, props to the little PA, our little PA, because he was just taking it with stride. People zooming in and out in front of him. Every aisle just packed with people trying to get the last bits of a holiday costume and party. I mean, terror. I was terrified. I was probably the most terrified in there, though. It was like pretty intense environment for this guy over here. So yeah, that was a little bit horror. That was a little bit horror-inducing, a little bit terrifying. Just took a sip of tea. Speaking of Halloween and that this time of year, today is actually Dia de los Muertos, which is the Day of the Dead tradition in the Mexican and a lot of Latin American countries. If you don't know what that is, do you remember the movie Coco? Where that was like the central theme or the central setting and the central story generator for that movie, which is a really incredible feast and a really incredible tradition that the Mexican culture has, brought to, I think, it's been grown in greater popularity over the past few years, probably because of Coco, and also social media and more connectedness. But it's a really great tradition that honors what we in our Catholic Church call All Souls Day, All Saints Day leading into All Souls Day, which is remembering that this is not the end. There is a life after this. I love the message of Dia de los Muertos. Trying to say that, a little bit of a tongue twister, but, my gringo side is pushing through to say Dia de los Muertos. And I think it's such a great holiday because it is a fun, great reminder that this is not the end. Life is not the end. There is another side. There is the other side. And it's filled with our friends and our family, and we're connected to them through generations, but we're also connected to them through our faith that, hey, like, death is just the beginning. And that can be a good reminder. Not every day walking around being like, oh my gosh, gotta remember that I'm gonna die one day, so I guess I might as well get the chocolate or get that extra pump of whipped cream in my coffee. But, that's maybe not the greatest perspective, but it is good to have little check-ins in the year for me to remember, like, this life is not the end, and there is the other side. And Dia de los Muertos is a great holiday to kind of embody that. And the colors and the costumes and the designs of this holiday in Mexico is just like so fun, so colorful. This classic, the skeleton makeup, the black, white. I love it. It is, obviously I'm very biased, being a very close connection to Mexican culture, but like such a great visual, and I feel like I feel like I love that Mexican culture-ness of it, where it's just like the food, the ofrendas, the music, the staying up late, the makeup, the cost. It's just like such a great way to both represent the Mexican culture and this honoring of the dead and this acknowledgement of the other side that we're all gonna go to one day. We're all gonna get there one day. Again, good reminder. So, I'm gonna watch Coco tonight. Love that movie. I love the movie Coco. It's such a cute movie, but also like the story's really good. And then the message of family and these kind of sticking together through family, even through tough times, figuring out ourselves, our identity. The little guy, his name is Miguel. Such a cute movie, such a good movie. So I'm gonna watch that tonight with the fam. Coco. Shout out Coco. Shout out Pixar. So Dia de los Muertos. Check out more about it. I'm sure you can YouTube and Google some people who can give a much better representation, much better detailed understanding of what this holiday is. But it is super cool to learn and know about. And again, Coco is a great way to see a fun way of how that's represented on the screen. So before we get into the interview with Catholic Warrior Fitness, that was such a fun interview. That's going to go on. I'm going to put that in a minute. I want to talk about one more thing, but make sure you stick around for this interview. It's about an hour long, so there's a lot of great stuff in there. And shout out to Isaac, and I want to thank Isaac again for coming on the podcast and being the first guest here. What's the Dill? It was a lot of fun to chat with him, and he is a strong guy who is out there building the faith and building up good men. So I just want to thank Isaac again, Catholic Warrior Fitness, for coming on the podcast. That's a great interview. So before we jump into that, I want to talk about my favorite thing I saw on social media this week. This clip I'm about to show is talking about God's timing. And I think it was super relevant for me because, as I've gotten older and as I've grown in responsibilities and if you've followed along in this podcast, you've kind of heard me talk about the responsibilities of life. You've heard me talk about my personal thoughts on, where I'm at in my life, kids, family, future, job, career, money, all these things I can kind of pile on. And it's very easy to look to other people and say, I wish I had what they had. Oh, they're at that point in their life, in their career. They have that much praise. They get accolades. They make that much money. They have that house. They have these things. Wow, that's a nice car. Well, what do they do for work? It's so easy to look at other people and say, well, I wish I had what they had, or I wish I, raised as fast my career as them, or I wish I had that many experiences as them. It's easy to look to other people, compare ourselves, but that is such a bad, empty thought because we're all in our own race. God has us all in our own race, and that is so, I would say for me, helpful and so edifying to understand that God is working on me and he's got me on his timing. He's got perfect timing, not someone else's timing, not a buddy's timing, not a colleague's timing, not a famous person's timing. Not, my stories being, God is writing my story, not someone else's story. And so the timing of life, I always put my own spin. Okay, well, I want this by this age. I want to be married by this age, have my first, promotion by this age, have a house by this age, have a few kids by this age so I can retire by this age and be a grandparents by this age. If my kids get married at this point, and then they'll have 20, 30 years of being a grandparent on a farm, whatever it is. And those are, I guess some of mine. But putting the timeline pressure on myself that I have to do things in my life and achieve certain things in my life in order to be on a good timeline so I can just be happy and so I can stay on this path of happiness. And so in this little 30-second clip, this guy who, I don't really know this podcast or these guys, but shout out to them. I'll link their video and their handles below. But he gives such a good little summary of the challenges and fears we have about timing in our lives, about doing things, and how God is just always on our side, always in our lane, and always writing our story, and how his timing is perfect.
I think that's the way the enemy talks. You're going to miss it. You're going to miss it. Yep. God never, if somebody ever hears I'm late.
Yep.
I'm missing my moment. I'm missing my opportunity.
Yep.
That voice that you're hearing is not the voice of God. That's not how God talks. He speaks more. We're good. It's okay. But God, someone's rushing past me. They're winning the race. Preston, they're not in your race. I have them in a different race.
Yep.
They're not beating you. As long as you walk with him, you can never be late to anything.
So that is just such a, in my opinion, that is such a perfect video for me, like so appropriate for me to hear. I heard that, I saw that video this week, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I resonate with that so much because I can put pressure on myself to say I need to get all these things done because God's counting on me. People are counting on me. My family's counting on me. And if I don't get these things done by this time, I'm going to fail everyone. I'm going to be a failure. If I don't achieve a certain amount of success or get a certain amount of things, I'm going to be a failure. No one wants to be around a failure. Everyone's going to hate me. This is what goes through my head. And the thought that God's timing is better than my timing and that God, his voice will never say, you're running out of time. God's voice will never, ever tell us that we're running out of time because his timing is better than the world's timing. I needed to hear that. And so I wanted to pass this on to all of you because I feel like it's really appropriate for my life, but I think also our society where we're a very busy society, always putting high achievements at the forefront of everything. And it's easy to lose sight of God's timing for us and the timeline, and that we're never really out of time. We can always do the things we need to do at a time, you know? Like, it's society that says you're too old, you're too old, you're not accomplished enough, you're not good enough for right now, your time is past, your 15 minutes of fame. That's what society says. God says, hey man, I got a perfect story that's written just for you, and it's going to be at the exact time that I need it to be, and it's not going to look like everybody else's. It's going to be different. So trust me, buckle in, let's go. So I love that. Love that story, love that video clip. That was my favorite thing I saw on social this week. I want to jump right into the video because I want to jump right into the interview that I do with Catholic Warrior Fitness. So a little bit of topics today, and then jump right into this video I did a couple days ago. Again, it's a great video. Great. Keep saying video, y'all. Sorry, bear with me. My brain working through this. God's timing is perfect, even when I'm saying the wrong words on a podcast. God's timing is perfect for me. In this interview, it was a great interview. Just want to thank Issac again. Reach out to Issac with any questions you have, maybe about his programs that he runs for guys who are looking to get in shape and looking to kind of challenge themselves and push themselves physically and spiritually. So reach out to him. I'll put his handles below. You can DM him. You can do his programs. He was a lot of fun to interview. It was just a great conversation just to chop it up with a guy who's out there, fighting for Christ, fighting for souls, and fighting for guys to challenge themselves and push themselves, which I love. So here it is, Issac, the Catholic Warrior Fitness. Enjoy. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for coming into this interview, jumping in the interview with me today. As I mentioned last week, I have my first guest on What's the Dill, and I'm super excited to have this guy. I found him on social, inspired content, inspired me. I reached out. He's gracious enough to join us today. Issac, aka the Catholic Warrior Fitness. Dude, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate that, man.
Yeah, of
Love
course.
to be here, dude. It's a blessing. It's amazing.
Dude, it's good to have you here, man. So let's start off. Just tell me and tell everyone a little bit about Catholic Warrior Fitness, because when I first saw your page, I was just inspired by the fitness approach you take, and also then like how you incorporate your faith and how you incorporate just like, just attacking faith through fitness. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Sure, 100%, man. So, actually, I have a background in music. I'm actually, a musician, and initially, that's kind of where everything started for me. I grew up playing baseball. Actually, I was an athlete, so that was like the first love of my life, you could say, quote unquote. And, trained all my life up until like 13, 14 years old. And then I fell in love with music, actually. I started playing the trumpet at 12 years old, right? Pissing off everybody in my house, loud trumpet sounds when you're when you're a little kid, I sucked at first, but I
What was
actually
the
ended
first
up
song you
getting,
were playing?
oh, dude, it was like, especially with the trumpet, it sounds horrible. It sounds like an animal dying at first. Like the first 2 years in the house, it's awful. My
Yeah.
poor parents, you know what I mean? Um, but I fell in love with it, dude. And it's funny because I had this like weird dichotomy because I was this athlete. My dad was a very good baseball player, and I think he kind of tried to vicariously live that dream through me in a sense because he pushed me really hard. And I had a create like a successful young baseball career. Like I was playing actually like I played in New York, I played in Puerto Rico for a World Series. I was everywhere, like all over the country. And so I really thought that was kind of going to be my life. You know what I mean? Until music came along. And like I said, it's an interesting dynamic between like athlete, baseball player, dude, and then, musician, lover in my heart. And it was crazy. So it kind of got a little tricky during high school years because my heart started to change a little bit more towards music than it was with baseball around like 15 or 16 years old, somewhere around there. And actually, the first like hard decision I had to make around this stuff was quitting baseball, which is a huge deal in my life because, like I said, my father, I kind of felt this pressure from him as like he expected me. So this was my freshman year of high school. I was 15 years old. I made the varsity team on baseball. I was good. And then I walked into my coach's office with my band instructor at the time. He was a trumpet professor. To this day, we're tight. Mr. Mormon, shout out Mr. Mormon, good dude. He walked me in there, and it was like a great lesson. Like, all right, you got to be a man. Tell him. That's it. So I remember telling my coach, I quit. I'm going to do music full time. Right. Fast forward a few years, I started to make music and produce music and sing and stuff. And I had this whole crazy career, like this music career from 16 years old to, 21 or so, which is when I reverted back to the Catholic faith. And in that, I always kept training as a foundation, right? So fitness has always been a part of my life in some shape or form or another. I've always tried to work out or, you know, you get the gist of it. But ultimately, it all kind of came together at the start of my reversion, this whole idea, right? So I know this is kind of a long-winded answer, but I want you to get the full background of how this came to be, because it's a pretty lengthy story. So at the start of my reversion, I had a very difficult time because my wife and I, we had lost a child together at the very start of it, right? And so I was just in a real dark place at that time. And I really had nowhere else to go but to train really hard, like physically. I always liked that idea as a man, like push my body really hard, right? And, it was this mix of who I am as a person inside. I was, really digging deep into building this grit because I had so much pain inside. And actually, at that time, I had a coach. His name was Shane Patrick. And he taught me a lot in a program in like 3 months, right, that he put me through. And in that program, essentially was the idea that was birthed of incorporating not only a fitness program that's very difficult for men because the value in that is insane to me. It changed my life, changed my habits. I basically applied that in my prayer life. I applied it in my spiritual life, everything just across the board, right? It changed everything. And at least the seed was planted in here because my life had changed so drastically with my reversion. And we'll get into that too. That I knew that it was valuable for Catholic men to do all three of these things that I was doing, which was really my habits were structured, very, very detailed, like to the T, like a Navy SEAL throughout my day. And then I applied it throughout my faith. And I felt like finally, I felt like harmony and peace in my life. I was living the faith. I was training very hard. I was eating the right things. Like I was very meticulous about everything. And that at least was the idea in my head at that time. It wasn't Catholic Warrior Fitness, the name or anything. I just thought this concept of like wow, this is extremely valuable. Like, you know, I would want to offer this or teach somebody. So actually, this was like 2020 era.
Okay.
And I tried out like having a few clients for free. I just, these guys, they weren't Catholic, but kind of put up this little blueprint, and it ended up changing a few of their lives. And it was an amazing thing to watch, but it was so fulfilling, so different than, you know, being a musician and baseball and all the stuff that I used to do. And so kind of put that on ice for a little bit until I dropped a video this year on my Instagram where I had like the official idea of being a coach. I was really inspired to be a coach by this guy named Wes Watson. You know who that is?
No, I don't.
Dude, you would love his stuff. He's not a Catholic, and a lot of stuff, you know, I think he gets wrong a lot, but there's so much of it that is extremely valuable for a man to listen to.
Practical.
And practical, you know, it's like men need to hear this in our church, especially. So that it all really started to click, bro. And
yeah,
honestly, more than anything, I really believe that God has put this in my heart. I've discerned it for a long time, for years. And as everything has unfolded, he's basically shown me like music, the love of my life, because this wasn't the love of my life. I'll be honest with you. And I never thought about this.
Mm-hmm.
He removed that from my heart, and he put this whole idea and everything, this ministry in front of me. And it's just grown to what's been, bro. It's unbelievable. I never anticipated this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So long-winded answer. I know it's a lot, but
No, that's great.
the gist of it.
That's a great answer. And I feel like what I heard there is, you know, something a lot of us go through and you just have lived out, which is you have your passions, you have the things you like, the talents maybe God gave you, but God called you to serve. So now you're using this, not just pursuing music, not just pursuing fitness, but now you're serving guys through fitness, serving guys through faith. And I think that sometimes that's how we mature. That's how I felt how we mature as men, is to be like, well, yeah. I mean, dude, I was an athlete too. I played basketball. I love basketball. I love sports, baseball, but that's great. Those are things I like. Those are things I like to do. And yes, God has used them in my life. But as we get older, we're called to serve God and his church and serve people. And so it's great to see how the service element has come to you through the things you like, not just, hey, I want to pursue my passion, but hey, I want to serve God and serve people through your passions.
That's right, brother. And it's you said it perfectly, because one of the hardest things for me to leave behind out of this whole process was to accept in my heart that music was not the thing. Potentially, like, bro, it's been years worth of it. It's my baby. It's like I put everything. It's like I want, but it goes back to the concept. It's like it's a very hard pill to swallow for men, but I'm the kind of guy that I'm very black and white in a sense. And God has taught me this very clearly. It's like, okay, how do you know this is my will? Well, one, we have to pray and discern, and it takes time, and it's very confusing sometimes. But there's been very clear moments where he's presented to me something like, listen, are you willing to forego this? Yes or no? And bro, I'm talking times in my car where I'm like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But
and
I like this.
Yeah, I like it. It's my passion. And another thing too, what it's been frustrating at times, you know, it's like I would ask him, why would you make me so good at this? Why would you give me this beautiful gift? And you know, I've literally brought songs with millions of plays, his career that I'm thinking is going to take off, like all this other stuff. And I realized why. You know, it's like he's given me gifts in these other areas too, but he's given me an opportunity to be humble. That's the biggest thing. It is hard. In the same way our Blessed Mother accepted, she didn't have to think about the mission, she accepted. And she did it absolutely, said yes, 100%. I think back to these things. And so in those moments, finally, there's this one moment that I had. It was very decisive in my car. I was struggling a lot. I was discerning for a while. It was after confession. And I was in adoration. And I don't know if for certain if it was like a locution or something, but it was, I can legitimately say it was like nothing I'd ever experienced before. It's like I didn't physically hear the sound of God, like how we hear stuff, but internally it was extremely clear and it was not my distinct thought because
Mhm.
I was thinking how we think things normally, and over my thought randomly and abruptly was like this voice,
Mhm.
and I heard it clearly, and it kind of scared me initially.
Mhm.
But at that moment, after I sat in my car and I gave it to him, music.
Yeah.
I gave it to him. It's extremely difficult, but I felt peace, and I finally was like, okay, this is yours. It's not even mine. This
Mhm.
is yours. And so, whatever it is you want me to do through this ministry, however you're guiding me, then just give me enough strength. That's always been my prayer to him in my hardest times, you know,
Mhm.
especially in the start of my reversion. I would just tell him, okay, then just give me enough
Yeah.
and I'll do it. And that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yes.
yeah,
That's
man.
that's incredible, bro. And I think also that idea of like, okay, you're offering to God these things that were like, hey, I want to serve you with my talents. But something that's been on my heart, and I feel like there's some parallels to what you're saying, because I have these thoughts too. Oh, God, I want to use my talents, use my skills for you, whether it's media, podcasting, I want to, and wherever this can go, I want to use this for your kingdom. And that is good. But the ultimate call I felt in my heart is to grow in holiness, grow closer to Christ. That's what God wants from me. Is
Sure.
like, dude, I like great, make a podcast, but like you have to be praying. You have to be staying far from sin. You have to be as good as a father as you can, a good husband. Like these
Yeah.
things are more important than creating a podcast that gets people to grow, to grow. I mean, obviously it's great if they grow in holiness, but it's like the most important
That's
thing,
right.
like to don't want to lose your soul
Yeah.
in the world. And I think
Yeah.
back to it's like the book of Matthew, it's the classic, like um seek the kingdom first, and all these things shall be given unto you. Right before it says, like, think of the birds in the sky. God gives them food every day. Think of how much more God the Father loves you. He's going
Yeah.
to give you everything. He's going to give us everything we need. So seek the kingdom first. So that's been on my heart about like
Yeah.
just like growing in holiness every day, putting my habits, making sure my habits are good, fitness, getting prayer in, relationally, like loving people without serving people, trying to
Yeah.
be more humble, and like that, and letting God take care of then my talents, my skills, what I can offer to build the kingdom.
100%.
I want to ask a little bit about some of like habits, because I feel like I like habits. I'm constantly working my systems. I love to hear. I see you on social. You're like posted at 3 in the morning. You're working out at 6. Like, dude, it's a
Yeah.
monster. Posting gym
Yeah,
pics
dude.
like, yo, get it in today, boys. It's 5:51. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing this at 8 in the morning. I'm like, dog, this guy is a beast in
Yes.
the gym. Um,
Yeah, man.
so like I love Atomic Habits, the book, talk about like 1% change can help increment over time, that kind of compound interest of change. Tell me a little
Yeah.
bit about like your habits and how it builds out to be like getting to the result you want.
Sure. Well, the first thing I learned about habits was from Wes Watson. I highly recommend, bro. I'm gonna send you some stuff on Wes.
Yeah.
He's a great resource. I think you'll find a lot of value from him.
Yeah.
Then I dove into Atomic Habits. Fantastic book for everybody watching this. Please, audiobook. I don't like reading, honestly. I'll blast the audiobook,
Yes.
my daily walk. Well, learn so much about habits because the bottom line, bro, is that as you know through this book, every single thing that you do throughout your day is a habit. Everything. And it applies in every aspect. And now I'm talking about the lens of a Catholic, right? And so in Catholicism and practicing our faith, we can apply the same habits that we do for anything else that we want to achieve within our faith. And what I found is that more than 90% of the time, when I talk to a man who is struggling with his faith or he's struggling with, his being overweight or whatever it is, it's as simple as he has bad habits. That's it. That's all it is. And so I wasn't always like this at all. You know, like I was, and this is a very short time ago. I'm talking 4 years ago. My habits were this. I wake up at 2 p.m. 2 p.m. I roll my blunt up. I smoke my weed. I go make my music. I go get a burger. I go watch porn and masturbate. I go then smoke some more weed. You understand what I'm saying? I was that man. I lived this life before my reversion. And so I understand very clearly, even in those habits, how ingrained they become in your systems throughout the day. That's just who I was at the time, right? And so when you break down your systems throughout the day, you have to really get intentional about what it is that you're trying to achieve and who it is you're trying to become at the end of your day, right? And so my daily habits right now, it's so that I am becoming this person. I've already become this man through a lot of grind and hard work and sacrifice, and through God's grace. Most importantly, can't forget that. Right. But it takes active practice in your day-to-day structure. So, for example, you see me up in the morning at 3:45, right? That is a habit every single day, Monday through Saturday. 3:45, boom. I don't negotiate about it. I make it habitual. And I've done it for so long where it's automatic. I'm a cycle now with it, where I'm literally like in bed, and at 3:45, I'm like, bink, 3:45. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I mean, it's like, that's come over time, yes. Right? But even in that alone, the habit is intentional. It's like, because I knew I wanted to be the kind of man that I am now before I do this, the kind of man that wakes up at 3:45 before his family, before his day starts, and to spend time with God. That was what I wanted. I like admired that, you know, like a lot of men I think do beforehand. Before I did all this, I would think it was the craziest thing. I would be like, David Goggins wakes up at 4 a.m., you know, Jocko Willink wakes up at 4 a.m. every day. I would think it's crazy. You know what I'm saying? And now I just do it. And I am it every day. I become it, you know? And you can apply that with every single thing, bro. It's that simple. But there's a structure with habits that a lot of people I think don't understand is, first and foremost, you need to know where they're at and where their bad habits are. So I would say, for somebody watching this, if you know you have bad habits and your desire to change some of these habits is like in that book. You remember when he's talking about writing down a habit list throughout your day?
All right. Yep.
Perfect thing. So go through your day mentally and write down every single habit that you can think of throughout your day from start to finish. And then next to those habits, write whether it is a neutral habit, whether you think that would be neutral, meaning not good or bad, quote unquote, however you assign it. And then the other habits do this, you know, the opposite. If it's a good one, it's a bad one. Get some clarity on it, and that's where you start, right? But yeah, dude, I just think it's I think it's absolutely crucial into changing who you are as a person. It starts at that base level, is changing habits. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's where it starts.
So diving in a little maybe into some of the details or some of the how-tos, if someone's watching this and is like, oh, but dude, Isaac, you know, like, I don't know how to. One thing I heard you said is, I don't negotiate. Now, I think negotiating in our mind, it's like this battle no one sees. It's like, wake up at 6 and have prayer time tomorrow. Wake up at 6, work out. Why is that so hard?
Yep.
Well, anyone can do it. Anyone can wake up at 6. Everyone can wake up to an alarm, but it's that negotiating when the alarm goes off that your body's first instinct says, stay asleep. And I think once you can push yourself, once I know this, once I push myself and challenge myself, it's like clearing the brush on a path. And I'm like, wait a second, I can do this. I can wake up a little bit. I can do this. And then like it gains momentum where I'm like, wait, I can work out. I can have a healthy habit. I can eat right. I can build consistent prayer. I can stay far from sin. I can not drink too much when I go out. I can be kind and respectful. I can be humble because I started to build these habits. And it's that first step of being like, wait a second, don't negotiate. Just like kind of push through that voice that's telling you you can't, you need to just save yourself. And it's like, dude, once you can get, at least tame that voice, at least kind of like, put it on the reins a little bit,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
powerful.
yep. I love that. I love what you're speaking to, because it's a very powerful concept. And I'll tell you what will help a lot of people in that, because we're all familiar with the negotiation, whether this is the first time you're hearing that term or not. The negotiation is the moment in time in which you know internally you need to do one thing, but you desire the comfort of the other. So for a basic example, say you're on a diet, you're trying to lose fat, right? You're hungry because you're in a caloric deficit. It's 5 p.m. and here you are on the way back to work and you see the McDonald's. You see McDonald's on the right. You're like, oh, McDonald's, and it sparks a little desire,
Eat
right?
that.
Then there's that little fork in the road. You know the fork in the road, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Think about any time. It's like that is a decisive moment. It's like, do I go home, eat my salad and chicken, or do I take a right and sneak it past the wife and go
Chicken nuggets, Big Mac, a Coke.
dude, right? So
Oh,
that's the moment. Well, now we all know the moment. Now, when you're in the battlefield, throughout the day of the battlefield, those moments mean more than anything else in the day. Those are the decisive moments that are either going to help you become what you're trying to become, or you're going to literally self-sabotage more to where you further build distrust in yourself. That's what happens over time, is because initially you have the intention and you said it to yourself or your wife or somebody else that you're going to do this.
right.
And then by choosing that, not only do you lie to all of them, but you, first and foremost, what we need to think about, we forget, is that we lie here, you break here. And that's the most important, because the foundation is within you first. So it's like, if you cannot trust yourself to make a decision, even if it's the smallest, stupid little thing, like going to get a Big Mac and cheating on your stupid diet, it is so impactful over a man's life when you do it 2,000 times.
Right.
You understand? It's massive, bro. It is massive. And in those decisive moments, this is what I was going to say to help. Okay. What we often don't think about when we have to make a hard pick is we don't think about anybody else. We don't think how it affects anybody else, right? If you're a married man and you're trying to do something like that, you don't in that moment sit there and think, how is this going to affect my children and how they view me? How is this going to affect my wife and how she views me in my marriage? None of you men think about that, because I know I didn't. When I would go outside and, smoke 3-4 blunts a day, I never once thought to myself, how is this going to impact my relationship with my wife?
Yes.
When I would go to the bathroom and sneak off and go watch porn and masturbate, I would never think, how is this going to impact my relationship with my wife? Ever. I always thought about me. It was always, I just want to get high and it's fun, or, oh, I'm so horny, or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? It's always it's selfish, always. So the piece that'll help you guys in the negotiation is create an anchor. I call this an anchor. For all the guys in my 90-day night program, I make them do this before I even admit them into the brotherhood. I'll force them, like, I need to know your anchor. Who is it? What is it in your life, right? And so the concept of the anchor is the most important person in your life, most important person. So that way, when you get to the battlefield negotiation zone, you have something that you can lean on intentionally here, to where you can start to tell yourself, you know what? I'm not going to go to McDonald's because I'm doing this for my wife, because I need to be a better man for her, etc. Bro, that is a huge, huge mental shift that will change your life if you can start doing that for every little negotiation. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, dude.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Dude, absolutely. And that's powerful. I think that relationship, which an anchor, is so important, because what you hit on is so key, which is like, when we have the negotiations, when we think about, I want to do the right thing, but I'm maybe have the choice to do the wrong thing, whether it's like pleasure, food, selfishness, whatever it is, it's always about then me. What you're saying, you're describing something, everyone, it doesn't matter who you are. We all know that thing where it's like, I want to serve myself or do or not. And it's so hard to step outside of ourselves to say, well, why wouldn't I serve myself? What's so bad about it? What's so wrong about it? And but we say, when you put that anchor, that person, I really like that person in a relationship, it's like, okay, well, like,
I cannot think of myself and get this Big Mac, or like when it starts coming to bigger things in life, like, like deciding where you're gonna live, deciding what you're gonna do for work, what if it's like you have an idea of taking a promotion, but it's gonna take away time from your family? Okay, more money, but less time for your family. Like, I don't, again, that's for, maybe that is the right choice. I don't know what the right choice is for anyone's family, but it's like, if you're just thinking about yourself, that's really hard then to always make the right decision, because it's just thinking about what serves me.
That's right. Men are supposed to be sacrificial. We are designed that way by God. And unfortunately, in society today, a lot of men have been fooled into these other concepts that are not aligned with our Catholic faith and what Christ has taught us clearly, right? And you can relate a lot of this to the cross. Think about it. Throughout our life, right? If we live in a world that is going to push us to want comfort and to seek comfort, but Christ tells us explicitly that we should not seek that out. He tells us over and over, like, hey, you want to follow me? Guess what? It's going to suck. They hated me more than you do. You're going to give your life. Are you willing? And it's like, we really have to sit with that and think, like, this is God telling you straight up what it is. It's going to be the hardest possible thing you could ever do, but are you willing to do that or not?
Answer me this question, because what you just described is like, the cost of discipleship. Picking up, Jesus says, anyone who wants to follow me, pick up your cross and follow me. Okay, pick up a cross. You just said it's hard, it's challenging. Now that can be scary. That is, dude, you're saying it's scary to me. I'm trying to do it my best, and it's scary even to hear it. But hard and not comfort and hard doesn't mean bad. So it's like your life, you just described, you said, smoking, rap music, whatever, like try just pursuing yourself. Is your life better now, or was it better then?
Bro, 100% better now. And my life and how I live now is the most fulfilling I have ever felt in terms of love in my heart, true love, because I understand not the whimsical version of the world love. Ooh, I love you.
Yeah.
No, I understand deeply the cost of love, which is sacrifice. It is putting the ultimate good of somebody before you. And that's what I strive to do every single day. I have plans, of course, I have goals, I have all these ideas, but I understand very clearly that I am given it an allowance. Literally right now, second to second, I really try to internalize that. Like, some stray bullet comes through this window and domes me off in this camera. That's it. But I understand very clearly, and I try to be intentional about that fact is like, God has changed everything in my life so drastically that there's no way that I can view this as like, oh, I'll just do whatever now. It's like every moment I have to be living with that intention, brother. I do. And my life now is way harder, quote unquote, in terms of, my daily work and my structure and my progress, the hardest I've ever worked. But it is truly joy in my heart. I think about the quote unquote worst times, which I internalize as the best times for me, were the times of the most pain. And I think a lot of men, we can reach this point, we kind of weenie out in a lot of sense, or it's like you complain about it. It's like, oh, you're going through a lot of suffering, but really, we should know this from the saints. We should rejoice in it. Like the worse and crazy, the harder your life gets, it could be crazy. You could really lean into that suffering for so much good, bro. I mean, I'm talking, bro, this was literally the catalyst to me reverting to the church. I would not be this man today if I didn't lose my child. I would not. That losing my child was such a dagger in my chest, like unbearable pain, that I was forced. It's like God forced me to sit down and understand, because I was so hard-headed and I had such a rock in my heart. I would challenge him all the time before I was reverted. I was that guy that was like, oh yeah, you're real, show me, prove it to me. I was that guy. I really was, bro. I was hardened. And he sure did, in the hardest way. But I'm saying this to say, when you go through a lot of pain and suffering, there's a lot of you people watching this right now. You're struggling, you're suffering. Don't run away. Don't run away from it. Don't cower away from it. Don't wish it was easier. Don't wish you had it easier. Don't do none of that. Dig in, lean into it, carry the cross. It's like this is not a metaphorical thing. You know, this is where you want to be with Christ, hand in hand. Picture him right there next to you with the cross on you. You get what I'm saying? I love that, bro. I love going through that. I really do. You know,
I mean, and that's, dude, I think that's great to hear. And I think it also shows like the kind of no fear attitude and trust in God that, hey, like there's going to be hard times. You're accepting it. I think a lot of times we want to not accept there's even going to be hard times. It's like, nope, it's all good from here on out. And I'm going to try my best to control the future outcomes of my life to make sure it's all good. And then when it doesn't happen, I get frustrated, but you're just like, there are hard times. I accept it. I'm putting my trust in God. And I think that's really powerful. So I want to jump into a little bit of fatherhood because I know you're a new dad. And you said you lost a child. When was? Do you mind talking a little bit about that and sharing with us some of that experience?
No, for sure.
Yeah,
no, for sure, man. So I'll give you some quick background. So even the way that I met my wife was miraculous. Everything a part of this journey has been a miraculous reversion. That's why it's so special in my heart, because it's unbelievable. Now, even when I talk to somebody about it, it's crazy. So here's where I was: 19 years old, 20 years old, musician out in California, cared only about myself, in the studio day in, day out, sleeping until 3, 4 p.m., smoking weed all day throughout the day. Like I said, extremely addicted to porn. That was where I was in my life, right? Now, my father had reverted back to the Catholic Church about 2 years before that time frame for me, okay? And I have a little brother who is my half brother technically, who he had, you know, later on in his life. And my little brother has a very severe genetic disorder, right? It's very rare. It's extremely rare. And I think ultimately that was the cross for my dad, because he was at the same point in his life. You know, he didn't raise us knowing the faith. We're Mexican Catholics, like culturally, we didn't know anything about our faith. That's just how we were brought up. You know, we're Catholic, but we don't know nothing. So he went full hardcore into the faith. Huge reversion, unbelievable to the whole family, because we all knew him as this guy. And it was kind of that thing where it's like, oh, now this guy loves God now, that kind of deal with my dad, right? He's the best. He's literally the most hardcore Catholic man I know. Like, he's that. This is how his character is. It's where I get a lot of my drive. He's like that, right? So he did it, and he struggled with everybody in the family, including me, for years. His son, of course, he wants his son to know the truth and come back to the faith. I'm out here in California living like an idiot. He knows what time it is with my soul, so he's trying to tell me as a dad. He's trying to basically. He took the approach of like feeding it into me at first for the first 2 years, and it was hard, bro. We had a horrible relationship during that time. You know, I really hated every time he tried to lecture me, and just I wasn't there. I just wasn't there. And finally, I noticed the shift in our relationship where he just stopped. He just stopped. And I was like, I felt it over time. Like, why isn't he, you know, he's there no more, really, right? Later, he told me this after my reversion, but without my knowledge, he consecrated me to Our Lady several times without my knowledge. And he prayed a daily rosary with the same intention for 2 years straight, 2 years, with the intention for Our Lady to put somebody in my life that I would listen to, that would bring me back. And so on I'm not even going to say random, on a specific day that God aligned, probably through the intercession of Our Lady, by telling him, hey, you need to handle business with little Isaac right now. Can you do this for me? That's probably what Mom did. Thanks, Mom. Appreciate it. I meet my wife on a day, like a movie. I'm literally gonna see a movie with my tia at the time, and I go to the food court because I'm hungry, and there's my wife in the middle of the food court. I'm so struck when I see her it's that feeling, bro, inside where it's like, oh my gosh, like I have to say something to this girl or I'm gonna regret it forever. That
Yeah.
was that feeling, you know what I'm saying? And so I mustered up enough courage. I was with my cousin. He was like, giving me a hard time. I told him, I was like, bro, you got to get out of here. I'm not going to go hit on this girl in front of you. It's weird.
Yeah.
So anyway,
He wasn't
walked up to
gassing you
her.
up. He wasn't like trying
Yeah,
to be like, yeah, man, go.
no, he was like, he was teasing me like, ah, you're scared. This and that. I was like, just get out of here. I don't want you to be here watching this. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
here's $20. Go get a
You
pair
just
of
go.
something. Yeah.
Go scram. Go scram. I'll see you in a bit. Right. But I got to do this. So I'm here like game time, dude. I literally have a tray of food like a little kid. And I walk up to her. She's with her friend, a girlfriend of hers. And it's a hard mission, dude. There's two women. I don't know. I'm trying to introduce myself to this beautiful woman and with the intention of, exchanging contact, of course, right? And so I come up with my little tray, and the only thing I could think of is like, can I sit with you guys and eat?
Just lunchtime, just school lunchtime. Yeah.
Dude,
Keep it simple
literally,
though.
like,
Keep it simple.
hey, they never heard that approach before
Mm.
in California because I'm from New Mexico, dude. I'm a small town guy. That's how we get down. It's like you're kind and respectful to a woman in that sense, when you approach them. It's not like, hey, what's up? Can I get your Instagram? I think you're fine. Like, it wasn't like that. I've
Yeah.
never been like that. Right. So I sit down and start talking to him. And in my mind, it went great. In my wife's recollection, she didn't like me at all. She wanted nothing to do with me. But I say all this to say, like, fast forward 3 months from then, dude, I am fully in love with this woman in an unbelievable way I know that I can't be that man anymore because my wife is so hardcore. Dude, if anybody has changed me as a person, it's been my wife because she is so locked in on her details and her habits and her order and her structure. Like, I respected her so much to where I just felt like such a weenie, dude. I felt like, oh my gosh, like I am this, what am I doing? She was literally supporting us, working 3 jobs. I'm sitting here on her couch in her apartment, smoking weed all day and trying to make music. Like, it was terrible. But anyway, one thing leads to another, right? At this point, I still don't know my faith, but she's pregnant. I get her pregnant, right? And so I'm 21 years old at this point. No idea what to do. I'm scared. All these crazy emotions come in, and the only thing I can think of is like, okay, I have family in New Mexico at least, and keep my timeline here. This is pre-COVID, right before COVID. So this is like 2019 in the winter, like December around there, right? Almost COVID time. And so I make a decision. I didn't really know her. We've been dating for like 3 months, but I told her, I was like, we're going to raise this baby, of course, and we're going to go to New Mexico because this is where we have support. We don't really have anything here. I'm going to step it up and I'm just going to figure it out. I'm going to man up. I'm going to do it. That's what I told her. And so we packed the apartment within a day, 24 hours, packed the apartment up in 2 cars with a dog, her being pregnant, stressful time, right? And by this time, it was already like they had announced COVID. It was kind of getting a little scary in the country. You remember that feeling, bro, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, it was
Yeah.
crazy
Wild.
everywhere. Everyone was getting scared. I was spooked about it. I was like, what the heck is going on? So,
Spraying down groceries.
bro, yeah, exactly. There was no more toilet paper. It was like around that era. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, we go to New Mexico, and it was very humbling, bro, because this was the peak of my career where I had the most viewership. I had millions of plays on my songs. I had these fans coming in. I was like, I'm doing it. And then it was like this was like, this has happened. It was like one day to the next. It was like this, right? Is all a part of this plan. It's so perfectly how God put it together. When I think about it. So to learn some humility, I really think so. I lived in my mother's home in my childhood room. That's where I moved into, right? Very humbling to go from all big shot music star, California, smoking weed, blah, 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 to now with my pregnant girlfriend, who I hardly know, in my mom's house, in my room. It was crazy. And the first night we got there, I really sat there and I just thought about that. And I was nervous and there's a lot of emotions, bro. I didn't know what the hell to do. Honestly, I didn't. And I was excited to be a father though. I remember feeling that like I was happy in that sense of like, I would think like, wow, I'm gonna have a kid. Like I'm gonna have a little baby. It's as crazy as all this stuff is. I'm gonna have a baby. And I felt in my heart always that she was a girl. I always felt like that. It was a little early to tell. We never really knew technically, but I always, felt that here. And so about 3 weeks passed, and there's this morning that she wakes up and she's having some complications and she's bleeding a little bit. And I had this feeling in my heart when she told me that it was over, but I didn't want to say it to myself. I was like, I try to hide it, but it was just this like desire, like burning and thing in my heart. Like, that's it. You're going to lose your baby. Like I kept over and over in my head about it that day. And so we go to the hospital. We actually went to like a little, I think it was like what is it called?
Emerge.
Yeah, something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like a daycare, not a daycare. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Not a hospital. Anyway, on the way there, I actually started to talk to God in my head. You got to keep in mind, I was essentially agnostic at this point, right? And so, it's funny, we always do this. If you're not a Catholic, or even if you are a Catholic, it's like when it gets to crunch time and you need something and it's hard, we're like, please.
Yeah.
God,
are you there?
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, dude, I'm a sicko in my mind. So I would always do this. And what I thought now is the wrong way. What I think now is the wrong way. But at that time, this is how I was in my heart because I was hardened. But I would tell him, I would challenge him. I'd be like, if you love me, like you say, if you're real like you are, don't do this. Like, don't do this, just testing him. Like, why would you do this? Why would like angry inside already before it even happened? And knowing really instinctually that it's happening, like it's over in my mind. But like I said, I'm trying to lie to myself and say, no, no, no. Maybe that's the Holy Spirit giving me insight. I don't know what that was at that time. So we get to the hospital. We sit there in this white room, and I remember the beep. That's what I remember. Just the constant beep, the little machine beep, just ingrained in my head. Probably some trauma. And so the doctor comes in and he does a little ultrasound, and we see they're looking for a heartbeat. And I can tell my wife's not really too aware of what's happening too much. But as soon as they put that machine on, I was looking real close, and there's none. And I knew it right away. I knew there was none. And that just further confirmed like this is happening. And so I think the doctor tried to like play that off as like, oh, we still got to check some more stuff. I think they knew right then and there, but it kind of just told us some stuff to give us some hope, I guess. But I knew, right? And so they come back in, and then they give us the hard news. But I remember seeing on that screen them searching for a heartbeat, and it's just gone. And dude, I just sat there and I just wept. I just wept. It was the craziest feeling, bro. Like something that I haven't felt to that extent since. It was a different kind of pain, and a lot came up in that moment. It was truly like a dagger in the heart, and now that I think back, since I've been reverted, I think about Our Lady. And what it is that she had to go through. And, this whole process of everything, it's taught me such deep concepts. God specifically put me in that moment so that I can understand very clearly, because this thought popped in my head, right? And maybe this was his voice,
or the Holy Spirit or my guardian angel putting a thought in my mind. I don't know. But a very clear thought in that moment spoke and says, she's mine. She's mine. And I was like, yeah, she's not even mine. I understood very clearly, like, she's not mine. And it made me like, at first, bro, it made me angry. I was extremely angry for that first month. I was like, it just went full rage mode. It was full rage, right? And that's what I expressed to God. And it was more challenging. It was more anger with him. It was like, why? Why would you do this? You know, why would you bring me here? Why? It was just, why me? Why me? Always about me, right? And he taught me exactly like a good dad, like the fatherly beatdown that I needed, scolding. He taught me why. I needed to learn through that way. It was the only way for my heart to be with. And with that, I think, of course, he knew that he could use me to do anything.
Yeah.
And it took a while, brother. It took months from there, but my dad was still working on me in the background.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And there's this conversation that we had one night. It was COVID time, and we were like social distancing on the wall. I think we each had a beer.
Sure.
He gave me a beer, and I'm telling him, this is months past now, and I'm getting a little emotional about stuff. And he asked me, he's like, have you ever heard about a Eucharistic miracle? And I was like, what is that? I didn't know what the Eucharist was. I just knew it as I referred to it as the little bread thingy. Oh, the little bread thingy that we eat on Sundays as when we go on Easter. And very lightly, he's like, I think you'd be pretty amazed by some of these things that have happened. It's like, I want to send you a link. I'm going to send you a YouTube link. Like, why don't you just check it out tonight, right? So I'm like, all right, whatever. Go back home, a little tipsy in bed, right? Same old life still. I think I'm high. Maybe I smoked that night. And I opened the link up, and it changed my life, bro. I watched that video, and at the end of watching that video, it's like, the only way I can describe it is if I now knew a truth that I couldn't unsee. That is the power of a reversion or a conversion that God will make happen. That is grace right there. In that moment, the grace that he gave in my soul, whether I knew nothing about the Catholic Church. I knew nothing. But in that moment, through all that suffering, he gave it through my dad and said, little YouTube video about this. And I watched it. And after, I could not deny it.
Right.
I had a choice. It's like, you're either going to say to yourself, if you know in your own heart, like, no, I'm going to turn my back. Just go my own way.
Off again.
Yeah, again. Even though I know, it's like it all struck me, bro. And even through just that video, I was like, wow, like, this is real. This happened. And then I just down the rabbit hole. The very next morning, I woke up and I had the most severe demonic attack that I had ever had in my reversion. And I never experienced that in my entire life. And so now looking back, I'm thinking like, yeah, that definitely was the decisive moment. And I don't think the devil really liked it too much about, what had happened. And ever since then, bro, that was the start of the journey, losing my child, a lot of pain and suffering in that moment. But in a nutshell, that's the moment right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like your name Isaac's also so appropriate. It's like Isaac went with Abraham up the mountain, and like Isaac was a man when that happened. He trusted that God had a plan. I'm sure it wasn't easy, but there was a lot of basically like walking down this path of faith and doesn't really know what's happening or why, but eventually God coming in at the last second and just like bringing Isaac back home, bringing him back down the mountain. And I feel like you kind of have this like appropriate name of like going down that path, but God has a plan for you. So you might think it's going up the mountain of basically going down death's door, but God's like, no,
Yep.
you're actually going to give birth to Jacob, who's going to be the, you know, father of the tribes of Israel, the line of Jesus, and all. It's like a greater plan, you know, man. So I feel like you kind of like got even have a plan with your name, dude.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you saying that. I really feel like I owe him. Like I genuinely feel like that. I don't just say that in like, oh yes, I owe you. Yes, we owe God everything. Yes, all of us. But specifically in my life, of how I live my life and the people that I've hurt and the sin that I've committed and in every way that I've lived, to now be given this insanely special grace, which is the truth of the faith of his church and how it's played out. Is I just feel so indebted to where I can never pay it all back. And honestly, this whole thing, Catholic Warrior Fitness, my life, me as a soul, I know that he has obviously used me for this because I was the absolute least likely to do any of this. Absolutely least likely. And in the same way that we go through the Gospels and we see those kinds of examples, it's the same thing all the time. The least likely, everywhere in the Bible, it's like God precisely chooses that why, so that he can show his power through us to everybody else to see around. It has nothing to do with me, bro. It's like I'm just a dude,
Yes.
This is all grace from him. So that's what I try to do every day, brother. Yeah. Really intentionally do that. Some days I fall back into my pride. I struggle with that, like everybody else. I'm a sinner, but this is my life work, and I'm ready to lay it down for him at any point.
That's so inspiring, and I feel like what you just described is why it's important. You just described why it's important to do Catholic Warrior Fitness, to talk about these things, to put stuff on media, because your life, your call is the same exact call that Christ has done, like with people throughout the Bible. So let's say St. Paul, great example. This guy was killing Christians. Watch St. Stephen, the first martyr, get martyred. He then, while he had a conversion, he said, well, the point was just to go tell about the good news in his life that happened. It wasn't like, he wasn't even a great speaker. His call was just tell of the good news. That's like what you're doing. You're not saying like, well, because I'm such a gifted athlete, or because I'm such a talented musician, or because I'm so worthy, I'll then share that with people. You're just saying Christ has worked in my life and I want to share that with others. That's the same exact call I have, everyone watching this has, and people have had throughout the whole church. And I feel like it's a simple call. I've complicated way too much of my life, where I'm like, okay, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to achieve, I got to be something, and then I can go tell people about Jesus. And once I get enough money, once I get enough esteem, once I get enough confidence, then I can be like, I can offer something to the world. And you just described where Jesus says to us all, dude, like, I'm going to change you, and just tell about that. Tell about the change in your life. And that's inspiring enough for people then to, like you're saying, open their heart a little bit. And then Christ works in that. And then someone else hears that and they open their heart a little bit. And that's almost like all we have to do. And I'm really learning that. So, I'm kind of putting my own spin on your story, because that's what I'm learning. It's like, dude, like, I can overcomplicate that. I need to achieve a certain level of holiness, and then I can tell people about Christ, or then I can share with coworkers, and then I can. But it's like, dude, like, it's like I just got to tell a story of my life.
That's right.
And that's it.
You said it perfectly, Peter. And I think that it's no coincidence that this has happened even today, bro, because it's such an important thing for people to understand that their journey and their story can have an impact on so many souls. And I know this very clearly now, because just through expressing it, God has clearly shown me, like, he's shown me the plan. It wasn't even my plan. I just was like, okay, what do you want me to do? Discern enough, and then just have the courage to say to my phone, to, at first there's 30 people.
Yeah.
At first there's 30. I'm like, okay, guys, this is my day. I'm being real. I'm not hiding it. I'm not trying to be some actor character. I'm just telling you what's up. This is what I feel. And you know what I've learned is, like,
the people that are drawn into it most that I see are the men who are just like me, who are rough around the edges. There's a lot of those guys in the faith. And I just love that God is allowing me to reach those men, because that's the man I want to speak to. I want to speak to the guy who is like me, full of pride, problem with porn, thinking you know it all, smoking weed, you think you're too far gone, right? You challenge God, you don't believe in it, like that guy, because I know that guy here. I am that guy. It's like the only reason I've changed and become this is because God has shown me. But it's amazing how God will do this with every single person, because his church is the truth, to draw somebody in. Like, I love these guys who are, that's just my get down. It's who I am. I wasn't raised in a traditional Catholic family. Everything is, and that's fantastic. If you've had that upbringing, amazing. That's how it should be. That's how my son's gonna grow up. But in God's providence, it's like his plan is so amazing that he could do something like this. And I think about the apostles, and these men were not like that. These men were rough around there. They were fishermen. They're rough. They're I like speaking to those men. You know what I'm saying? It's just because I know them. I know them well inside, because I still, in my heart, every day have to put that man away. The way that I live my life, bro, is so that I can banish that man forever. I have to. If I don't live like this every single day, he's gonna creep back.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it.
Yes. Dude,
So.
that's something I've been learning more and more the past few years, particularly since becoming a dad. It's like, it's not about me having the willpower to change my bad habits into good habits, or to become, like, my willpower is equal to my holiness. But really having a humble and open heart to be like, you know what, there is a fallen and sinful side of me. And that, like, as hard as it is to admit, like, that is a part of me, my fallen nature. So I need to, like, put God in there to keep that guy at bay. And
Yep.
yeah, I want to pretend, oh yeah, dude, I'll never really sin greatly wrong. I will sin again. It's like, I am so capable of being in the wrong scenario, whatever it is, of sinning greatly. And it's like, for me, once I admitted that to myself, I was able to, like, let God in to transform me more, to be like, okay, like, I don't need to, like, be like, I just need a really strong willpower and then I'll be really holy. It's like, my
Yeah.
willpower is gonna fail eventually.
dude.
And I have good willpower. I think I do. But it's like, God's not like, dude, yes, just be a little stronger. God's like, no, let
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
get transfer, and I'll keep that guy at bay. You don't have to worry about it. And it's like, okay, yeah, like, yeah, kind of just like our fallen nature.
That's right, bro. You're exactly right. And it's the hardest virtue to attain and to become humble. It's very difficult. But it is, I mean, that's a reason why it is the greatest virtue, is because for us to understand the reality of everything is that all of this is through God's allowance.
Yes.
Everything. The reason you're here in the first place, the reason this little phone call is going through correctly, every smallest little thing, if we intentionally keep that in our hearts throughout the day, that will help in humility. Because the fact of the matter is that in a millisecond, it's going to be like this. Wrap. It's over. It's gone. And then what's the most important truth? The most important truth that you're going to face is you're going to sit in front of our Lord and you're going to be judged. That's the bottom line. I'm that kind of guy. It's not doom and gloom. It's just like, what are the black and whites of this life? Because Satan will try to do everything in his power to be like, check this out over here. Look at this. Forget about that. Distraction, distract you. But as long as we truly have our eyes on Christ and we're with him, truly with him, it's like, that's what we have to cling to. We have to cling to him and understand that we suck. Can't do it on your own. There's no possible way, bro. I've learned that lesson so clear from what he showed me. It's like, you have no power. I give you everything, is what he's taught me clearly, So yeah, man. It's a struggle, it's a grind. We got to do that every day,
I think you have a gift, you have a real gift for it though. Like you're saying, that kind of, that black and white thinking is able to give you the habits to not negotiate, to get up, live that life that Christ is calling you to, and then share that with guys who also need that, who also
Yep.
want to have a black and white kind of like no negotiate, just do it attitude, which it's like, so it's like you're kind of serving that segment that Christ wants you to serve. And like you're saying, you can speak to it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like, and I think that's really, I mean, it's just, honestly, man, I think it's a really sign of strong maturity in your faith, to be like, this is how Christ talks to me. I want to share that with others. And like, we need that, because they're saying like, it's very easy in life to justify, to be like, well, I just really, you know, you're saying, I wanted that Big Mac because I had a hard day at work. That's me.
Exactly.
I deserve this.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
deserve that. I deserve that ice cream. I worked hard. And then obviously going to like stuff that's sin, it's like, oh, like, well, I'm good enough. I'm better than that guy. I'm holier than this person. So that kind of justifies any of my actions. And it's like,
Yep.
that's toxic thinking. Toxic thinking. And sometimes it's like saying, just like this, like obedience, just like, okay, well, God is God. Let's obey God first. That's where we start. And it's like, oh, okay, well, then yeah, I should be avoiding sin. Just like straight up, no excuses about it. I should just be avoiding, like, not sin. It's
That's
not.
right, dude.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so before we let you go, I know you're a busy guy, got kids. I'd love to hear a little bit, lastly, kind of on just like fatherhood and 2-month-old.
Yeah.
You getting any sleep? How's the baby sleeping? Waking up?
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good. Fatherhood has, just like any dad would tell you, it's completely changed everything. Everything. I'm trying to really dig in here and let you know the real of it. At first, I was a little nervous going into it, like delivery room, like I didn't know what to expect. And actually, I made a video about this. You may have seen it, but I had a conversation with my dad.
Yeah.
You saw this one?
That's
Yeah.
out.
My dad had to check me. I love it. This is what the dad is for, right? This is what your dad is for. He's supposed to put you in check and put you right back on that path. Because I was having these thoughts. I was like, I'm nervous. And there were like, thoughts that I feel like every new dad maybe has, like, oh, you hear this pass out in the delivery room, blah, blah, blah.
Yes,
all
I
this
had
stuff.
those.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So when I talked to my dad, telling him all this stuff, because he asked me first, he was like, well, how do you feel? You ready to go? And I'm like, well, I'm a little nervous. Like, I don't want to pass out, like all this stuff. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, you're going to go in there and you're going to be a man. You're going to be an oak tree for your family, for your wife. What are you saying right now? And I was like, yeah, he's right. He's all right. Why am I making this about me? My wife's about to deliver our child.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
yeah, it's go time, bro. So once he did that, it was a good mental shift going into it, because I fully just locked in. And then in the, when it was game time, it was game time. And to see my son being born was the most insane thing.
Wow.
Is wild, dude. It is like, I know you guys that are watching this, you're not fathers, and you've heard from other dads, or you want to be a dad. Everything that a dad has told you, that's what it is. It's like, you can't know it until you're right there. But when you're right there and you see him or her for the first time, you're blown away. It's like your heart just blows open with fire. It's insane, dude. So yeah, I mean, that feeling has really just amplified already who I am, beforehand. If anything, it's taken everything to a crazier level.
Yes.
Because now the responsibility is even greater, because God has entrusted me with this little soul. And I know my job clearly and precisely. Like, my job is to lead both of these souls to heaven. That's it. My job as a father and as a husband. And so, yeah, dude, it's like the stakes are higher, my worries of the future that creep in every now and then, they're a little more amplified with him specifically. I'm like, when it comes to the vaccine, when it comes to school, with every little decision, I'm like,
You know what I'm saying? It's like but it comes down to the
You
back to
deserve
the
a Big
normal.
Mac, bro. You deserve a Big Mac.
Dude. So I mean, but I go back to my baseline, even with these variables, right? I go back to structure daily. What am I doing? Now I apply this to fatherhood. What am I doing in my habitual structure in fatherhood? You know, it's like, how am I serving both my wife and my son? Am I all these things, bro? It's back to basics. Um, the regular stuff, he's a baby. He sleeps. At first, it was like an hour and a half. He's a big boy, but he eats a lot. Freaking eats like,
Oh,
he eats every hour, dude, on the hour. He's huge. My wife's tiny. She's like 4'11". He's already half her size, literally. It's like,
dude.
yeah, dude. It's like, he already has a beard. I'm just kidding.
Love that. Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say, I was like, yeah, kids probably got that 5 o'clock shadow that.
Yeah, yeah, dude. It's amazing though. Like, just to come home at the end of my day and hold this little boy, it's like nothing I've ever felt, dude. It is pure love. It's amazing. Yeah.
Well, dude, thanks for sharing that. I appreciate the vulnerability of sharing that, because I've also felt that as a dad. I'm a year plus in, and for me,
Yep.
like what you just described is basically the same. All of it, just like it's insane. The delivery room is insane. It's wild. I'm like, when they slapped my son on my wife's chest, I was just like, what's happening right
What's
now?
happening? Exactly.
I was literally,
Exactly.
it's so primal.
Yeah.
It's so
It
natural. I was
is.
just like, oh,
Yep.
what? And of course, we're just there. We're just like, yeah, all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
You're nurse, you're doing great. Doctor, you're doing great. Wait, and I'm just there, just the guy who, 9 months
Yeah.
ago was the only involvement. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Right. 100%,
yeah,
dude.
yeah. And I think for me, what I've said is like, it's everything you said. I said it's fatherhood is kind of just, it's everything. It's the good, it's that, it's the high, it's everything, and it's super sanctifying. Like fatherhood is
Mhm.
good. Like it's good for guys,
It
because like
is.
I said, it forced me to basically keep the attention off myself and what I want. You can't be holding a baby at 3 a.m. trying to tell and be like, stop crying, stop crying. They're not, you can't
You're
do it.
not.
So you
Yeah,
just have
bro.
to be like, okay, I'm holding my child who is crying. I can't control it. What do I do?
Mhm.
And then it sanctified me. And it also then, like you just said, all of these things, responsibilities, everything you just described. So who 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 are you going to rely on? Just me? Or are you going to rely on our Father, God the Father?
Exactly.
You'd be like,
Exactly.
I need to rely
Ah,
on God the Father to kind of like
yeah.
keep this
Clicks.
going.
It all
Yes,
clicks. Yeah. It
grace to
clicks.
get going. Yeah. And to be like, okay, like I need to rely on God, you more and more to give me the grace to make me holier for these responsibilities, and not work and trust that God is taking care of these things. Not
Yep.
just like, all right, I gotta get the house, I gotta get all these things, which I stress about that stuff. I stress about every detail you can, college funds, house, schools, private school, homeschool, public school,
Yep.
everything. And it's
Yep.
forced me to be like, God, you have me here today. You're giving me my daily bread for today to take
That's
care
right.
of today.
That's right.
And that was today. And then tomorrow we'll do
Mhm.
tomorrow. And it's hard for me because I want to have the 25-year plan. I already see myself on the rocker in my ranch, just drinking. I already have that, all right. Like,
Love it. Love it, Peter.
like, dude,
Yeah.
I need to start today, just like folks in today. So it's very
It's a great point.
Yeah.
It's a great point. Like you said, I got the same similar vision. Mine is like, I'm shirt off, I'm fully jacked outside of the sun. I'm
Yeah.
with my Traeger grill. I got an elk steak that I just went hunting with. I brought it, killed it for my family. My son's right here. I got that vision. Like I'm a psycho like that. I got the vision. And then I think like, all right, well man, let's trace the steps here. What are the daily things that I have to do? And am I doing them every single day? If not, then kiss the vision goodbye. Right. And more importantly than all of this stuff is asking Christ help me through it
Yes.
all, because we can't do it on ourselves. So
Yeah.
beautiful, bro. Beautifully said, Peter.
I
Awesome, man.
appreciate it. Man, honestly, I feel like that's like honestly the perfect way to conclude this, where we started talking about your ministry and how you take these day-to-day moments of building good habits and how you use practical knowledge and wisdom to build good habits to have that compound into a great and fulfilling life. And then to kind of end it with like fatherhood, which is sanctifying and it builds our faith more, but it also is like this everyday. It's about the everyday of like trusting that God's going to give us what we need every day to be great fathers. So
100%.
no better way to end, I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. That's great. It's fantastic, man.
Yeah. So Isaac, I really appreciate you coming on and talking with me today. This was a lot of fun. This was amazing. Thank you. The first guest on What's the Dill. So thank you so much. Yeah, man. And to everyone out there, make sure you check out Catholic Warrior Fitness. I'll drop the handles in the bio and everything. So you can definitely go check out Isaac and what he's doing. If you're a young guy out there, if you're looking for a little change in your life to kind of better yourself, hit him up. Hit up his people who he's helping. He's got testimonials that have shown the work works. So,
Yep.
I just want to say thank you again, Isaac. Any final words for yourself, for the people here?
Guys, final words, I would say, whatever you're going through right now, whether you're traditional Catholic and you're practicing fully every single day and you're a Catholic warrior in that sense, right? Or whether you're outside of the faith and you're lost and you don't know what to do. Rely on Christ only, truly. And I don't mean that in the corny sense of what you hear often, because a lot of times it's just, it's just talk. But deep down in your heart today, take some time and speak to him, talk to him, and make that something that you do every single day. And talk to him real. Talk to him talk to him real. Talk to him real. You understand what I mean by that? It's like you have to have conversation first and know him. Get to know him. Amen.
Amen to that. All right, bro. Appreciate your time. This is incredibly fun. Thank you. We'll be in touch, all right?
All right, my brother.
All
Appreciate you, man.
Bye, guys.
Shoot.
Okay, thank you so much, Isaac, for the interview. That was a lot of fun to chat with you. Thank you to all of you for listening, for watching, for subscribing, for liking, for reaching out. It means a lot to me, and it also is great to just be a part of your day and be a part of your life. I'm honored. I'm honored that people would spend a little bit of time with me in their busy lives and their days. So I want to thank you guys. That's it for today. Make sure you like, subscribe, share this with someone that you think might enjoy this podcast, and I'll catch you guys next time. God bless. Peace. Bye.